All right, guys, we got a good one for you today. This one's going to be on a 2015 Volkswagen GTI. This is the MQB, and this is the chipset 3537. So this is one of the tougher ones, guys, because this involves board cutting, guys. Cutting traces. So if you've never done anything like this, trust me, if there's something you're interested in that you might be doing, you need to watch the whole video, guys. There's no skipping parts in this video is just going to get you in trouble. It's very important details. Stick to the end, watch the whole video so you can fully understand what's going on.
The first thing we're going to do to get this instrument cluster out is to pop these panels. And all these panels, I just popped it with my hand. It's held on here. So you got to separate that one so you can get this side out, as you can see. All right, and at the bottom of the cluster, if you can see there's two, looks like T15 screws, so we got to get those out. Last step, with two hands under here, you got to pull hard. This thing is one of the strongest clips ever. And then push in, slide out. That's it. Here it is, boys.
Now let's get it, boys.
Back at the bench, guys. So we're going to disassemble it. A couple of, it looks like T8 screws. So they back. All right, guys, here's the pinout. So we've got on number 1, we have 12 volts power. And then we've got our ground next to that on number 10. And then we've got 17 and 18, which is our CAN low is 17 and CAN high 18. And we have communication with the cluster at this point via CAN. As you can see, we've got a resistor between 6 and 14, and the bus is active with power to the cluster. All right, guys, on the IM608, you're going to navigate to Audi and MQB beta, and then NEC unlocked via dump. Okay, and our chipset is D70F3537. And we're going to, at this point, since we're connected up via OBD, just to show you, this is not a necessary step, but we can read the email data so you know you are communicating with the cluster. Okay, so since we have power to the cluster, we can go read cluster information. And there it is. So we are communicating. There's our VIN number. It tells us ECU hardware and software version and all of that. So I'm going to warn you, this is something you really don't want to attempt unless you know what you're doing. You need to watch this whole video from the beginning to the front. There's a lot of guys that think you could just watch the first 30 seconds or 1 minute and 30 seconds of this clip and think you're going to be able to get this done. Trust me, guys, this is something you really want to pay attention to here, because you will fry this. And then when you try to go back here, it is not going to read. And then I'm going to get the crazy comments and emails, of course, because somebody decided that they're not going to watch the whole video, and of course they're not going to use the right tools because they didn't go over to globalcommerceca.com, our website, where we have all the tools to help you guys get these things done. By the way, here's just a small example of some of the tools. For example, we've got the ultra fine tweezers. Things like this you definitely have to have when you're working with these type of components. You've got the replacement clip reader right here for EPROMs, guys. We're official distributor for CG products, for OBD Star products. We've got programmers such as the SC200, OBD Star DC706. Guys, get over there, click the link in the description and check it out. More than that, check out the review I've done on this microscope. You need to have a microscope for this as well. I highly recommend it. All right, let's go, boys. I'm telling you guys, there's going to be somebody in the comments that's going to come up here and check all the YOLO buttons, all the YOLO check marks, right? He's going to check the one that says, no, I didn't watch the whole video. No, I didn't head over to globalcommerceca.com and get the tools I needed. And no, my device is not working and there's smoke coming up. All the major components are fried. Hey, man, I'm only one man. There's only so much I can do. You got to do your part at some point, guys. We're going to go to read chip data. It's going to load the schematic for this chip. All right, here we go. Of course, you're going to need the XP400 for this, guys. And here are the instructions. You can pause and bring anything back. If I go too fast for you, you can feel free to watch this video more than once, twice, whatever you need to do to get this done and get a full understanding. So there's two areas we're going to concentrate on this board, the front and the back. So you're going to fully need to disassemble the cluster guys. So that's something important to note if this is a job you're going to try to attempt. So this is the section in the front of the board where the actual gauges are at, and this is the section in the rear of the board we're going to be focusing at. In the rear, we're going to need to solder up to, I believe, 4 points or 5. Let's see here. We're going to need to get the reset here, ground. You also need to supply voltage to the board separately at a ground and a power right there, 12 volts. So I would definitely recommend a breakout like this where you can supply the voltage. And of course, you will need the APB130 for this. Here are the pins that you're going to use, as you can see here. Transmit and receive. We've got the blue one here, ground, and then the white goes to the front of the board. And this is going to be the most delicate part. You actually have to cut the traces on the board in 2 places, guys. So this is something, like I said, I don't recommend everybody just trying this. Not only do you have to cut the traces, after you're done cutting the traces, you got to repair them, guys. All right, somebody's going to ask, how do I know the chipset? And here you go. So this is it under the microscope, guys. Let me kind of move that so you can see the whole thing. There you go. Right. I'm going to further start disassembly. So first thing I'm going to do is pry up on both sides like this. Once you have both sides all the way up, you can then slide the ribbon cable out. And you want to gently just basically pull back on it, and it'll come out. And that's once you have this all the way up. You can then separate pull the front off, and literally you just pull this off. There's no force or anything. In fact, if you turn it upside down, it will fall. So it's just sitting inside of this frame, guys. And you want to note the position of the gauges because you want to put them back exactly like that. You want to avoid turning any of the gauges. I always try to keep everything exactly in the same position when I put it back. Okay, I've removed the gauges. So you want to use your pry tool. I like to use a paper towel to put as close as I can to that next to my pry tool, because these the plastic or the color here usually scratches off pretty easy, so that kind of keeps you from scratching off the little paint. And then as you can see, I've removed all 4 already. Just pry under it, boom, and pop it up, and it's a very firm grip, guys. All right, once you do that, you then release all the clips on the sides. There are a couple of them all around, another one near here. Now at that point, since you've already released the screen, it should just pop right out. As you can see, got the whole board exposed now. Okay, I'm going to start with this side of the board because this is the most delicate side, because this is where we actually have to cut. And we're going to focus right in this area. As you can see here, this is the 2 traces that we need to cut on the board. And here it is under the microscope. By the way, this looks much better in person than on camera. But it's basically that one, that trace right there, and this trace. I'm going to just mark it with a pen. So as you can see, I've marked the two of them with a marker, so I definitely don't mix them up. I need to break that trace and also this trace right here. All right, guys, as you can see, we successfully cut the traces. So now we're going to the next step. All right, guys, and this does require, for the XP400, the APB130.
Okay, guys, for this you're going to need a razor blade. I recommend an X-Acto knife. And I just made an initial pass, but I decided to pull out the multimeter to check the leads, to check that, to see where we have a connection, because that's very important to know, so that when you break it, you know what you had before and what you should have, right? So I'm going to make a couple of passes here. As you can see, I'm making small strokes in a downward motion. So I'm just trying to basically break that copper. So this is a copper line. So once we break that copper, we should not have a connection from that capacitor to that junction point there. You just have to have a little patience. You got to remember, guys, this is not a race. You're not in any competition. You take your time and do it. You don't want to be rushing. As you can see, I'm putting my test leads back and seeing if I've broken it, and I have not. So I'm continuing to do those slices like that, right? Like I said, you do not want to rush this. Take your time. There's no competition, because if you do some kind of you're too forceful, You can end up damaging other components on the board. You can go through the board. Some boards are also multi-layered, so you can end up damaging another layer under. There's a lot of things that can happen. You can end up possibly taking off material and passing it to another location on the board and can cause another short. So you got to be very mindful of what you're doing, guys. Take your time. It is not a competition. As you can see, I'm going back and forth, and actually I'm doing downward strokes, and that's one thing. In this case, downward strokes might kind of keep the material, certain parts of the material in the same place. So that might not be the optimal way to actually cut this material. So every board is different. They use the materials are a little bit different. The masks they use on it are different. So sometimes going in different strokes up and down would actually help. In this case, that's the more effective on this board, up and down, slight strokes. And then periodically you're going to need to test and see if you've broken that connection. As you can see here, I'm testing again, right? And I still have a connection. So that's something you got to keep in mind, guys. And we're just going to keep going. Downward strokes, as you can see I'm doing here, which did not break the connection. Okay, I left this part here. I didn't edit it out because I wanted you to see pretty much how many tries I did to, as you can see, I did a little bit too much force and I kind of went further down than I wanted to. So you got to be careful about putting too much force. Now here is, I'm applying alcohol on a Q-tip, and what that's doing is that's clearing off the debris and allowing me to see that trace if it's cut or not. As you can see, this is real time, so the alcohol evaporates very fast. So it then kind of brings back, once it evaporates, it kind of clouds everything up. So you reapply some alcohol and then you can see if the trace is broken or not. So I've zoomed in, put in my microscope a bit closer to get a better look. And from the looks of it, it looks like the material has been cut, but there's still a connection. As you can see how fast it evaporated. So we're going to go ahead and focus on the other trace, and then we're going to come back to that. So here we go. All right, so I sped it up a bit. As you can see, I'm checking it. It still hasn't broken. I've put some alcohol to see if I can see the trace, and I can't see it. We finally broke it. So what actually did it is up and down motions. So you can try on this board up and down motions, as you see I'm doing like that. So if there's any kind of residual material that's causing a connection, you will be able to break it like that. And I'm applying alcohol to clean it and also remove any material that could possibly cause a connection or a short. So that's a very important step too, guys. Get you some Q-tips and alcohol and clean the area. And now I'm testing and there is no more connection. So that's why I'm double checking on my leads and making sure my leads are working, and they are, but the connection is finally broken. So here we're now going to focus on the 12-volt power supply to the board. So we're applying right here solder, and then we're going to apply flux and solder up the leads rather. All right, here we're going to solder up our remaining leads for the APB130. As you can see, everything's up. Our last two leads, our power and our ground 12 volts. We've got it soldered up with these leads here, and we're going to be able to connect it to our breakout box. So we're going to be able to give it ground and power. So we're just going to plug it in. As you can see, it fits. So we've got our
ground down our power. Everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and connect 12 volts to the XP400. I don't think it's necessary in this case, but I'm still going to do it. So we've got power to the XP400. We've got the APB130 connected up. So now we're going to go to the Autel. All right, now we're going to tell it okay. Oh. All right, connected. All right, I forgot to turn on the power. You want to inspect everything, make sure there's nowhere that you could be grounding out on anything. That's kind of why I have it on this cardboard box. Just double check everything. All right, now we got power. Tell it okay. Connect the programmer. And it says reading data. And it is in progress, guys. 5 to 10 minutes. As you can see, the light is going on the programmer. So we do have a good connection. We're at 7%. And I'll bring you boys back. If you haven't clicked that thumbs up button, make sure you do it right now, guys. There is no place you're going to find this type of content on the internet. This is the only channel, okay? Google all you want. You're not going to find it. Only on this channel, guys. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, hey, man, that's on you. We all got to figure this thing called life out, man. 69%, man. Some of these fights be good, man. I don't know if y'all watching. 98%. Still going. 100%. All right, I'll call it GTI. Save it. This is a 15 GTI. Takes a minute to save. All right, we got it saved, and that's the path, guys. Tell it okay. All right, we're gonna do a calculate emo data. All right, so we're gonna select our file, and ours is GTI. Okay. All right, so we're gonna tell it yes. GTI called it. Save. There it is. All right, tell it okay, and there it is, guys. There's our data. There's our CS code. All right, so next step, tell it okay. All right, guys, the next step is make dealer key. I've got videos on this. Click back to my other videos, and you can see this. We do not have the key since it's all keys lost. So we tell it no. All right, we got a 32-bit sync data in. Press enter. Okay. It's going to now program the key, and we've got 12 volts power into the programmer. Tell us okay. Yes. Dealer key generated successfully, guys. So now we're going to go back to the vehicle and start the key programming process.
Okay, guys, so this is the repair process. So you have to repair the cuts that you did make to the board. So I'm going to use some flux and put it at that point there where we cut the lead, and I use just a thin strand of copper, and from any copper wire you have around, and I just basically used solder to join the original point down to the jumper to where it leads off to, and I'm testing with my multimeter and making sure we have good connectivity, and you do that on both points.
All right, back at the vehicle, we're going to get the cluster put back in and the ESL connector back up. All right, got the cluster back in. All right, now we're going to go to key learning. Yes. One key. One. Okay, we got the hood open, and key goes to the sensing area, which is right here. Okay. Sometimes it helps to hit the start button to kind of wake up the system. It failed. I'm gonna do that again. I'll hit the start button, tell it retry. Yes. 1. I'm gonna hit the button. Okay. Learning key. Oh, you gotta have internet for this, boys. Learning completed, guys. All right. Learning completed. Let's see here. No. Ignition did come on. I don't know if everything's hooked up with the engine, but we do have ignition on now, guys. So it is working. Oh, we're not in park. Yeah, they just, I think, rebuilt the whole engine on this thing. So let's see here. All right, I just got it in park. Battery.
Okay, this one is a crank no start because there are certain things not hooked up to the engine still. The mechanic is still working on it, but the vehicle is done. It is programmed. Before anyone asks, I always get these crazy comments about the 32-bit sync data. Go back to my previous MQB videos, watch all the video, the whole video. There's a lot of information in there, guys. Read the comments I left. This is important. If this is something that you want to learn, you're going to have to do the research. You need to watch the video entirely, read everything so you can understand what you're doing. You don't jump into something like this if you don't even want to learn how to do it. But if you decide you do not want to do that, we also offer consultation services. Go into the description. There's my email address, and we can set you up with a consultation for a fee, of course, and go over all of this with you in detail. So there's different options for everybody. Any way that you want to get it done, we can get it done, guys. Go ahead and click that thumbs up button. Like I said, like and subscribe. And if you didn't know this, now you know. And knowing is half the battle, boys. See you on the next one.